Hi there, I'm Tim from Experimental RC and I'm really excited to be making this video because today we're going to be taking a look at the new Durafly Auto-Gyro from Hobby King. Now a gyrocopter or an auto-gyro is a really cool type of aircraft. They're sort of like a cross between your traditional fixed-wing airplane and a helicopter. The lift is generated by the main rotor. However, unlike a helicopter, the rotor is actually unpowered. It turns to the concept of auto-rotation, which is exactly what happens when you drop a maple seed to the ground. It begins to spin. The main rotor is offset backwards by a few degrees, so as it moves forward, air flows up through it and that causes the rotor to turn. The spinning rotor in turn generates lift. To take a better look at how a spinning rotor in auto-rotation actually does generate lift, I flipped things over here to my wind tunnel and did a few quick tests there. Let's take a look at those now. My wind tunnel is based on a relatively simple design. It's made out of plywood and plexiglass and it uses a brushless motor and propeller to pull air through the tunnel. As the air enters the tunnel, it passes through a chamber made out of stacked corrugated plastic, which removes any turbulence from the air before it enters the viewing chamber. Currently, I'm burning flux with a soldering iron to create smoke. However, this is far from ideal and I'm looking for a better solution. I'm open to any suggestions. The model itself is made from some scrap Depron and masking tape and begins auto-rotation easily. The following clip is played back at 33% real time. You can see that as the blades of the spinning rotor pass through the airflow, some of the air gets forced downwards. I believe this test roughly illustrates what air passing over an autogyro's main rotor during flight would look like. Autogyros are not actually a new concept, and as a matter of fact they've been around for quite a while. The very first one to fly took off in Spain in 1923, and it was basically just a modified fixed-winged aircraft with a vertical and horizontal stabilizer for the controls, and it had the unpowered rotor instead of wings. It was designed to be an aircraft that could fly safely at slow speeds, as this was before helicopters were widely used. The autogyros were used quite successfully for a number of years. Most notably in the United States, they were used to deliver mail between cities, as they were able to land on top of skyscrapers in densely populated urban areas. When helicopters did become more practical, they pretty much replaced the autogyros entirely. This is mostly because of their ability to take off and land vertically, and also hover in one place indefinitely. However, by this time, the autogyro had made several main design improvements from the early models. Most notably, pitch and roll was now controlled by tilting the main rotor back and forth or side to side. This also increased the maneuverability of the autogyro quite a bit, specifically in unpowered flight. This new control method also in many cases eliminated the need for a horizontal stabilizer. This further increased the simplicity of the autogyro, and because of its relative simplicity, most of the autogyros in use today are single-person aircraft. There are some interesting experimental versions, however, such as one version which uses something called tip jets, which are basically small rockets on the tips of the rotors, which can be activated during takeoff and landing for vertical flight, and also during flight for increased slow flight performance. Taking a look at our model here, we can see it does have some of the features of a modern autogyro. For example, the ability to adjust the rotor themselves to control the roll. However, it also seems to be based strongly on the designs of some of the older autogyros. For example, it has a horizontal stabilizer and it uses an elevator to control pitch. Let's take a look at the unboxing of this, the assembly, and then take it for a test flight. So assembly really is a breeze. This thing literally snaps together in under 10 minutes, which is actually a really good thing because 2 of these units and a dozen blades later, I still can't keep this damn thing in the air. When I first started off, I had trouble with it flipping over initially on takeoff, which is quite common. Basically, you want to make sure this gets up to speed before you even think about touching the elevator. However, I find it very disorientating to fly. As soon as it gets in the air, I unconditionally end up tip stalling and watching helplessly as the aircraft spirals down and crashes with no way I could possibly recover. So that being said, it's been quite frustrating and it's not easy for me to fly. It might be easier for a more experienced flyer, but I just find it quite disorientating. Nonetheless, I don't know if there's another airplane that I would continue with to this point. I've every time I've gone out, 15 times probably I've crashed. And I don't think there's another aircraft that I would still be trying with. So make sure you keep watching. Sorry I don't have anything to show you in this video in terms of flying, but hopefully I'll get it figured out and post a video when I actually do get this thing in the air. Thanks for watching.